Welcome back. Toolkit for Rape Recovery. So I figured it would be nice for one episode to stop dealing with our emotional world and focus for a second about the people around us, friends, family, spouses, people who need to deal with us day in, day out, standing us, loving us. My rape angel wrote to me about this loneliness, and she said that even those of us who are lucky to get love and support, we still have this immense loneliness engraved within ourselves. In a way, our separation anxiety is not an anxiety, but rather knowledge of separation. In our self-perception, we are damaged, we are broken, we are unlovable. Hence, you cannot love us, and if you do, it's only because you don't know, it's only because you don't get exactly what we know. I got another quote from my rape angel. We see the world very much in black and white. We have no grays, we have no boundaries, especially when it comes to relationships. It always tests you and will test you out of the assumption that you will fail. Will test you out of the assumption that you cannot pass this test. So how many tests you will pass will make sure we'll find the one that you want. We're so used to this sense of loneliness that if in any time someone shows up and seems to understand, we tend to be a tiny bit needy. And it makes sense. We're so used to this immense loneliness that if there is someone that seems that they can pull us, even for a second, make us feel not alone, we'd want more and more of that. Hence, we need you to give us boundaries. But we need you to do it full of love. You need to lovingly give us borders. It's almost like we have two entities, two personalities. One of them is the external image, which might come up strong, successful, normal, held together. We might have a family, we might have a relationship, we might have a successful job. In the outside, it all seems very, very held together. And then there is the internal image, the broken person, the damaged one. Self-abusing, depressed, suicidal, anorexic, bulimic, a shadow of a person, a watercolored person. And those two images, they both exist within ourselves, but this huge gap between them makes the situation very, very, very confusing. Both for us, but for you too. For us, it almost feels like we're drifting between those two personalities. We're not this, but we're not that. We feel like we have no grounding and we don't exactly know which of the two are we. In that sense, we need you to help us expand our vision into the gray areas. We need you to help us understand that both of them exist and that we are a little bit of both. In a way, it's easier for us to be the inner image. We know how to be the victim. It's easier for us to be broken than to be held together. It's a similar tension and probably worse when the abuse happened within the family. There is like the normal image of a functioning, loving, warm family. And within the inner family, there is this awful dark secret that puts its weight both on the victim and on the aggressor. We tend to live two lives. The life that you guys see that might seem successful and perfect and happy, and those that only we know of, and that we make a huge effort to make sure you guys would never find out about. Many of us would run away from home, to a different town, to a different country. If it was possible, some of us would probably move to a different planet. We're really not used to being authentic to ourselves. In a way, we feel like all of our life we needed to have this outside image that shows that everything is fine. In a way, I feel that not being authentic is the biggest victory that my aggressors had on me. And that's the one thing I'm working the hardest to bring back into my life, to be authentic. I'm going around with this affirmation bracelet that reminds me whenever for a second I put someone else's will in front of mine, to be authentic to the way I feel, to what I want. We're not used to giving space to what we want and what we feel. We're not really in tune with our feelings and emotions. So give us time and help us and be supportive while we try to figure out our authentic feelings. To sum it all up, to-do and not to-do list. Don't pressure us to talk about that if we're not ready. But make sure behind any reasonable doubt that we know that you're there and you're willing to listen and you're happy to listen. Even if it does seem to you like we might know that you're there, that we might know that you're happy to talk about it, we don't. It's a really difficult topic to bring into conversation. It's getting a bit easier nowadays, and I think that's very, very important, but it's still very, very hard for us to actually go and speak about it, especially with someone that loves us and cares about us and is as frustrated and feel the pain and the anger that we feel about that. Give us boundaries when we become too needy. but do it with loads and loads and loads of love. When we do feel needy, when we do feel that for a second, because of you, we weren't alone in the world anymore, we'd want a lot of that. So put your boundaries, but do it with a lot of love, with a lot of compassion. Come with patience. We demand a lot of patience. Don't try to make sense into it. It doesn't make sense to us either. All those questions that check whether or not we experienced the event exactly the way it happened in supposedly objective reality, all those questions are detrimental for us. Instead of trying to succeed in our tests, deconstruct them. Identify them and deconstruct them with us. Even if you'll succeed in some, we'll make sure to test you again and again until we'll bring you to the point of failure, because in our emotional world, there is no other possible outcome. Show us that the test is irrelevant, that you love us fully, and that we don't need the test to prove that. There is another issue that comes from dealing with that. I think the frustration, the incompetence of protecting oneself, the anger about the person that did that to us, all of those are things that we feel to an extreme, but also the people around us feel. And I think specifically for men, this experience might be really frustrating. The anger about the fact that it's someone from your gender that did that to someone you love and you care for dearly. The fact that you weren't there to help and protect whenever it was needed. This anger can be immense, and it's really important to recognize it and deal with that. But it's also important to not be violent. We cannot afford losing you, so don't be violent. What men can do is give us love, is give us support, is help us seek for our justice in legal ways, and it's take an oath that you would never ever, in no circumstances, would put a woman in a similar situation. I really appreciate and I really respect you for taking the time, wanting to understand better the world in which we live in. Yeah, it's not obvious, so respect. I'm proud of you. Go on. That's enough about standing us. Next week, about filing a complaint. Why? What is it good for? Till then, big kiss, big hug, all done.